Well, good morning, everyone. My name's Chris Miller. I'm president of the Piedmont Environmental Council, and just want to thank everyone for joining. Thanks to Marco for hosting the event. We have done a number of webinars over the last 6 months, and we're finding them to be a good way to give people an update. And by recording them, we're giving you an update that you can go back and watch for the parts that you're interested in. Certainly be able to share it with other folks who may be interested, and we're just trying to make sure you're aware of what we're working on. And the good news is that it's been an enormous amount of activity, and like all of you, we're faced with really challenging times, but things are happening, and things that are happening are very positive. There are challenges that we're all struggling with, but we think we're making progress in many of the areas that PEC has traditionally worked. So the format for today is going to be to have each of the staff people that work in Culpeper and Rappahannock be presenting a portion of the program, and that way we'll be able to introduce you to our staff, and you'll be able to get a chance to ask them questions at the end of the program. We're going to cover things that you might sound familiar: open space, public places, local land use issues, and then in particular our work with food, farms and food, both the enhancement of markets for the farm community of our region, and also the food security issues that our communities are dealing with, and what we're doing to try to be of assistance.
Chris, go ahead and click your, just scroll over to the full screen near the exit and click that again so we don't see your tabs at the top.
Oh, I apologize.
No, it's okay. There, yep, yeah, there you go. And then you can just use your arrows to click through the.
All right. Mm-hmm. Good. So very quickly, we have been open since, well, no, that's not correct. In March of this year, we took the steps to protect the safety of our staff, our board, and our volunteers. So we actually shut down our physical offices and moved to a remote work platform. Thanks to your help over many years, we have been investing in the technology to enable all of our staff to work safely from home, and they've been able to do that. As we've gone through the the phases of social and physical distancing, we've been able to make our offices available for those staff who need the internet access. It's on a voluntary basis for the most part. And we've started to be able to reach out to individual landowners and others for safe in-person meetings when we can keep physical distancing. Even to the point where the community farm, we've been able to have some volunteers over the summer to help with the harvest from our expanded production. That was pretty exciting to be able to connect with the communities in Loudon and Fauquier who were willing to volunteer during July, August, and early September. Doing a lot of these online offerings and trying to keep people up to date. Been able to keep our full staff in place, which is exciting and very, very positive. Our private donors have been exceptionally generous, and we've had a lot of goodwill shown towards PEC, which has enabled us to keep going full bore. We're keeping watch on that, but for now we're in pretty good shape and are looking forward to continuing the effort. My arrows aren't working, Marco, so I have to go do this. A lot of focus on food systems, food security because of community needs. You'll hear about that, very positive outcomes and I think signs of progress in the public policy around those issues. Been actually doing a lot of work to improve public access at the local and regional scale. Our properties have been heavily utilized. And we have certainly heard about the number of people who've been using the Shendo National Park and state parks and other things. So a lot of attention on open spaces and support for doing more, which is wonderful. We've all been challenged by the new way of making decisions and in remote meetings and learning how to stay on top of governmental processes at local and state level, federal on occasion. I think we're getting better at it. It's still challenging, and trying to find ways to help people participate continues to be a big focus for us. We continue to do an enormous amount of conservation work and restoration work, and you'll hear about that today. And finally, you know, the bottom line is the level of interest in our communities to make them better has never been greater. People are valuing home, they're valuing their communities more than they ever have before. And it's an exciting time to be a community-based organization. So tough times, lots of issues on the table. We're going through a lot of change in our society, but out of it has come some really positive work, and we just want to report to you on what that has been and its details. We've obviously been reaching out to folks a lot of different ways. Webinars, we've done a big mailing on land conservation tools that are available. We are doing those site visits, and you know, we're continuing to move things forward. Right now we have 34 landowners working on conservation easements on about 12,000 acres of land. So hopefully, you know, in the next 6 months to a year, those projects will come to fruition and more progress towards the long-term goals. Those long-term goals are out there. PEC has been very open about the fact that its hope is for 50% of the privately owned land in the Piedmont to be conserved over time, to be the base of a strong, vibrant rural economy. That works out to about 1 million acres. It's 50% of land, but you know, knowing which 50% is always an interesting question. It does not include the growth areas. The gray areas on this map are the designated growth areas from the comprehensive plans, and it's really focused on the areas that the counties have identified for agricultural and rural uses. That goal of 50% is now seen as a sort of a baseline or minimum for the survival of species diversity, the survival of nature over time. So that's it's a useful number to keep in mind. There's a short-term goal now being openly discussed among a lot of federal and state agencies, which is try to reach 30% conservation by 2030. And we're remarkably close to that in many of the areas of the Piedmont. So congratulations and thank you for all of your hard work over the past 50 years. The wonderful thing about permanent conservation is that it accumulates over time, and we are seeing the signs of progress. This map sort of highlights what's been accomplished and some of the public benefits that result from that. So let's get to the details about what's happening in Culpeper and Rappahannock. I'm going to transition to Maggie Blundstrom after I show you this slide. This is a map we put together of key properties within the Rappahannock-Rapidan watershed that could be conserved, and if they were, they would help anchor the rural economy, the agricultural community. These are projects where we're talking to the landowners about accessing the Farm Bill program called the Agricultural Land Easements, ALE, and these would be grants to landowners to conserve their property. They're all operating farms, and they're all part of a fabric that of the farm communities that are really important to the long term of our region. And this is a map just to show you the number that are seriously considering participating, which is very exciting news. So with that, I'll close and pass this on to Maggie. Maggie's coordinating the Rappahannock-Rapidan initiative, and she is a longtime part of PEC's family. This is her third stint as an employee. Very highly trained, a wonderful professional, but also a wonderful spirit. And we're so happy to have her on staff and have her be part of this project. So Maggie, I'm gonna turn it over to you and stop sharing.
Okay, great. Thanks, Chris. That was very sweet, very informative too. So I will begin presenting here. All right, can everyone see my screen?
Not yet.
No, you can't. Okay, let's try that one more time.
You need to make sure you turn on, there you go.
Yeah, we're good to go now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So yeah, hello again. My name is Maggie Bloomstrom, and I serve as both the Culpeper County Field Representative and the coordinator of our emerging Rappahannock-Rapidan Conservation Initiative, as Chris just laid out. So I'm from Marshall in Fauquier County, and I was pretty lucky to grow up surrounded by protected farmland with the added benefit of having the Nature Conservancy's Wildcat Mountain Natural Area in my backyard. So this has really made a huge impact on my life. And I'm really excited to work for PEC, the tremendous conservation partners in the region and residents like you to continue the legacy of healthy land and water stewardship. So I want to jump right into what Chris was just talking about. So 5 years ago, the Piedmont Environmental Council kicked off a strategic conservation planning exercise to think more holistically, so beyond our county boundaries, on the best way to accelerate land and water conservation in our 9-county region. So this reframing of our work really represents a major shift in how we approach projects. So late last year, again, I was brought on to figure out how to coordinate with multiple partners and leverage our combined skill sets and limited resources to make landscape scale impact. So this is our target geography outlined in red, which includes the headwater streams of the Rappahannock River, which is located here, and the Rapidan, all the way to the confluence at the eastern tip of Culpeper, which is located right here, and includes portions of Fauquier, Rappahannock, Culpeper, Orange, Madison, Green, and this tiny little knob of Albemarle County. So the watershed is home to Virginia's most productive farmland, numerous battlefields and historic resources, intact forests, wildlife habitat, and beautiful places to recreate. The rivers are vital sources of drinking water for hundreds of thousands of Virginians. And while large parts of Virginia have been heavily developed, this watershed remains largely intact. So what's the motivator behind this target geography? Well, despite the numerous resources, many of these counties rank the lowest for conserved land, which is represented as green on this map. This region is also positioned between two of the fastest growing areas in the country. So Northern Virginia, which is located right here on the map, and the city of Charlottesville, and expanding cities like Fredericksburg and Richmond. So as my colleague Chris Hawk will describe later, the watershed is a target for real estate development, transmission lines, and utility scale solar. In the past 2 years alone, the Piedmont has seen proposals to convert over 10,000 acres of farm and forest land to utility scale solar. But we can work to address these issues. We have a unique opportunity to accelerate land conservation and permanently protect these valuable resources by leveraging a combination of public, private, and philanthropic funding sources. And in April of this year, these partners came together to form the Rappahannock-Rapidan Conservation Partnership. So we charted out our partnership's purpose, which is to work together to accelerate land and water conservation and permanently protect valuable resources in the watershed. So I used this beautiful picture of the Robinson River in Madison County to really be the backdrop to describe our conservation priorities for the partnership. So starting up in Shenandoah National Park area, we really want to accelerate public access for outdoor recreation, protect clean water, restore and reconnect wildlife habitat, conserve working farmland, and preserve historic and cultural heritage. So our short-term goal is to apply for significant funding to advance land and water conservation. And we're in the process right now of submitting a federal grant to help us achieve this. And one of our long-term goals is to create a continuous conservation reserve from the Blue Ridge Mountains to the confluence of the Rappahannock and the Rapidan rivers. As our partnership develops, I look forward to sharing updates with you. And to learn more, I encourage you to watch our story map entitled Blue Ridge to the Bay, which will be circulated with the recording after this webinar. So I'd like to turn to Culpeper County. So in 2019, private landowners like yourselves, working together with land trust and public agencies, protected 12,475 acres in Culpeper, Rappahannock, Albemarle, Clark, Fauquier, Greene, Loudoun, Madison, and Orange counties, bringing the total land protected in the PEC region to 421,415 acres, accounting for nearly 20% of the entire land area in our 9-county region. So last year, Culpeper County added an additional 693 acres, which is shown as orange on this map, of permanently protected acreage, bringing the total to 20,406 acres in Culpeper County. So the county has a wealth of historic battlefields, as shown as blue on this map, existing conservation easements, forest land, and scenic properties. And as the map and the numbers show, there is tremendous opportunity for private land conservation in Culpeper County. So right now, we have 5 active conservation easement projects covering about 1,500 acres, and those projects I highlighted in purple on this map, such as this one. And then I have 5 other ongoing projects that cover just over 3,000 acres, which are shown as pink on this map, all in various stages of negotiation and completion. So while these properties range in size from 50 acres to 1,500 acres and have various conservation benefits, the 2 common denominators are that the owners love their land and want to see it protected forever. And the second is that they are active farming operations. So we understand that some landowners with working farms and forest lands are unable to rely solely on the Virginia conservation tax credits with donated conservation easements, and we are employing additional tools to help farmers protect their land. So one of those tools to accelerate the pace of farmland conservation in the Rappahannock and Rapidan, and Culpeper in particular, is the Natural Resources Conservation Services Agricultural Land Easement Program, often referred to as ALE, as Chris Miller said earlier. So this program helps farmers to keep their land in agriculture by contributing up to 50% of the fair market value of the easement, while allowing the landowner to receive tax benefits on the remaining value. So over the past several years, PEC has been successful in getting awarded ALE funding for projects in our region, and here are 2 examples. So in 2018, my colleague Peter Huget closed on the 382-acre Glen Mary Farm at the base of Clark Mountain in Orange County. Glen Mary Farm is owned by the Nixon family and is run as a diversified operation with beef, poultry, and crop production. The Nixons were able to take the money provided through the ALE program to reinvest in their farm, and they may utilize some of the funds to purchase additional farmland in the area. So last year, PEC was awarded full federal and state funding for the 348-acre Madden farm in Culpeper County. The Madden project will be the largest African-American owned farm ever protected under this program, and it contains Madden Tavern, a rare relic of pre-Civil War Black entrepreneurship in rural Virginia, and listed on both the Virginia Landmarks Register and the National Register of Historic Places. So the soils map on the right shows where prime soils are located, which is dark brown, and soils of statewide importance, which is the light brown. As you can see, the majority of the property has high quality soils, which is the primary qualifier for the ALE program. Soils like these are prevalent throughout Culpeper County. So if you're interested in learning more about the ALE program or would like to explore what conservation options are out there for you and your property, we'd love to talk to you. So please reach out. So turning to a topic that's near and dear to my heart is public access. So public access to the natural beauty of the Upper Rappahannock watershed is essential, and it's a large focus of our work in Culpeper. The county is bordered by the state scenic Rappahannock River and the Rapidan. Both rivers offer amazing fishing opportunities, ranging from our cherished native brook trout in the headwaters to the migrating shad closer to the confluence, and all the panfish one could desire. The impacts of COVID-19 are immense, and our communities have seen an exponential increase in individuals and families looking for places to safely recreate outdoors. We are so lucky to have these amenities within a short driving distance. But despite their close proximity, there are few places to legally access our rivers. On this map, the purple stars indicate areas of existing access, like this one right here, and the red stars indicate areas of proposed access, like this one right here. That said, there have been considerable movement on creating public access sites over the past 6 months. We are really encouraged during these, which is really encouraging during these physically isolating times. PEC is working with other water trail stakeholders, including Friends of the Rappahannock, John Marshall Soil and Water Conservation District, Virginia Department of Wildlife Resources, and both Culpeper County and Fauquier County Parks and Recreation Department to increase public access for non-motorized boats and get several of these proposed sites online. As an example, just last year, Fauquier received its first access point to the Rappahannock, located at Riverside Preserve, which is right here. A generous landowner heard that Fauquier lacked access, and he donated over 200 acres upstream of the Waterloo Bridge to the county. In the year since, partner organizations are working on these proposed downstream sites to create a linked water trail for the community and visitors to the area. If you have land on the Rappahannock or Rapidan and you're interested in talking about public access, or if you know folks who do, please reach out. We are always happy to explore options. So one of the public access sites that we and other partners are collaborating on is the Rappahannock River Campground in Richardsville, which is located right here. This 50-acre property is currently a privately owned primitive campground with an established canoe and kayak slide into the Rappahannock River. It is located 10 river miles downstream from the existing site at Kelly's Ford, which is right here at CF Phelps Wildlife Management Area. And it's about 7 miles upstream from the confluence of the Rappahannock and Rapidan, which is right here. So we are exploring options to keep the property, and in particular the river access, open for residents of Culpeper and visitors to enjoy. So this location is essential to building out a navigable water trail and blueway from Riverside Preserve near Waterloo Bridge all the way down to the city of Fredericksburg and beyond. So I'd be remiss in talking about public access in Culpeper without providing an update on the much discussed and celebrated State Park project. For a little background, the American Battlefield Trust and Brandy Station Foundation own over 1,200 acres on the Brandy Station and Cedar Mountain battlefields. Around 2015, the idea of a future state park using these lands as its core started to gain steam and positive feedback from area groups, representatives, and the County Board of Supervisors. So early this year, the General Assembly directed the Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation to really study this. So weigh the management of the park, potential user activities, and operations, and to report back this month in October. But with the pandemic, there's an extension for another year. So at this point, we're still awaiting results. So I'm going to turn to water quality right now to tie this all together. So last November, the Friends of the Rappahannock developed a river report card to determine the baseline data indicators to help stakeholders monitor trends in water quality and watershed conditions in the Rappahannock River watershed. Each tributary was assessed on about 16 quantitative indicators for stream condition, which are grouped into 4 categories: human health, land use, stream ecology, and community engagement. So this information was really intended to equip decision makers with information that they needed to target stewardship action on a local level and help organizations like us do the same. So many of Culpeper's streams that were analyzed may be on a roll. And some of those aspects fell a little short of where our streams need to be. 3 of these streams, Muddy Run, Mountain Run, and the Lower Hazel River, which are located right here on the map, were selected by the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality because of their bacteria levels. DEQ will work with stakeholders and local residents to create an implementation plan for these streams. So if you're interested in learning more and participating, the first public meeting is actually tomorrow evening at 6:30 p.m. It's virtual and open to the public. So please reach out to me after this presentation and I'll be happy to send you information. So one way that we work to improve water quality in our region is through planting native trees along streams, often referred to as riparian areas. So this is the Headwater Stream Initiative, and it's a joint project of the Piedmont Environmental Council and Friends of the Rappahannock. It's an effort to provide free technical assistance project design, materials, and even labor for tree planting of native shrubs in these riparian areas in the Rappahannock River watershed. The process is pretty simple. All you have to do is sign up by going to pecva.org/buffers, which is located here at the bottom of the screen. And just sign up to learn more. So one of the representatives from our organizations will reach out to you, learn more about your property goals, and set up a site visit. This is my colleague Claire Catlett and I with the staff of Friends of the Rappahannock just last week in Rappahannock County planting some trees. So just to brag a little bit, the Headwater Stream Initiative complements existing agricultural best management practices provided by soil and water conservation districts and NRCS, and it has tremendous success to date. Since 2017, Friends of the Rappahannock and PEC staff, along with partner agencies and over 800 volunteers from schools, civic groups, and residents like you, have planted nearly 100 acres, 26,000 trees, and then 4 miles of stream habitat that help filter water, serve as habitat for birds, pollinators, and fish, and other critters. So my colleague Claire will speak more about this exciting initiative in just a bit. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to wrap up and provide a little summary that we're still here working on conservation easements. Please reach out to us about public access, learn more about the Headwater Stream Initiative, and that the Water Quality Working Group is meeting tomorrow. So please feel free to contact me to learn more. And I'm going to turn it over to Claire Catlett, my colleague.
Thanks, Maggie. That's great. Claire is just getting her screen going.
Thank you, Maggie. Yes, I am getting set up here. One moment. Just one second. There we go. Okay. This hopefully looks good to you all.
We can see your notes, Claire. I don't know if you need to change which screen you're on.
Hide that. I'm sorry.
It is okay. You take your time.
I'm sorry. Let's go back and exit.
So it's amazing how you know I've now helped host almost 20 webinars and I think I have it down, and you know, lots of nuances to this. So I was just telling folks before we hopped on that one of the last webinars I hosted, my computer died right as we were starting. So
how's that?
there's always things. I think we will. Oh, there you go.
Is that better for you all?
Yep. Now we can
Okay.
just see the slides.
That's great.
Thank you for being patient. There are lots of little tricks, as Marco.
It's all good.
All right. Well, I'm Claire Catlett, and I work in Rappahannock and Fauquier counties as a land conservation field representative for PEC. Today, I'm mostly going to speak with you all about the Rappahannock County things land conservation has going on. I also live out here in Rappahannock. I have the blessing of calling the farm at Sunnyside my home. My partner is a farmer here, and he grows organic vegetables, and it's a great life, but it is also especially wonderful to be part of this community in Rappahannock. And what makes Rappahannock so special, beyond the wonderful people here, really is the energy that everyone that lives here has put into conservation. And you can see this by the momentum gained over time with the number of easements that protect land and protect the agricultural economy and really the rural way of life that is here. So In Rappahannock County, nearly 20% of the land is protected by conservation easements. And when you add in the Shenandoah National Park acreage, that actually adds up to 38% of the county protected as open space. And a lot of this has been made possible through the generosity of landowners like yourself, and also a lot of great leadership. Important to PEC's success in Rappahannock County is our Krebser Fund for Rappahannock County Conservation. This is an advisory board to PEC that's made up of local residents of Rappahannock, a lot of who place their land in conservation easement, and who have a stake in seeing what the future of conservation is for our county. Our Krebser Fund has been throughout time. It started in 2003, and then it merged with the Rappahannock County Conservation Alliance in 2014 to pursue projects in a shared mission. And to date, the Krebser Fund has invested over $300,000 in projects for land conservation, land stewardship, public outreach, all to enhance the rural and scenic values of Rappahannock County and restore and protect land and water resources. I'm really excited to share with you some of our latest work through the Krebser Fund and PEC. And this is especially great to talk about because I was just out a couple weeks ago doing the fish surveys for our trout restoration initiative. As many of you know, the eastern brook trout is a native fish to the mountains of Virginia and especially important to the Blue Ridge. The brook trout that we are tracking here in the Piedmont are in the headwater streams that border the Shenandoah National Park. And in 2013, PEC embarked on a survey of over 140 road stream crossings in this area to identify which crossings were impeding trout access to upstream spawning grounds. And so what's happened at these crossings is that on both public and private roads, there are culverts that back up gravel and sediment on the upstream side and can deteriorate stream habitat and also can cause effects for sedimentation and water quality. So we've embarked on a number of pilot projects since 2017, and PEC has worked with a number of generous funders like the Krebser Fund, but also through the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation Small Watershed Grant Program, the Bring Back the Natives Program, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services National Fish Passage Program, and other great funders like the Nimick Forbes Way Foundation. I could go on. A lot of people care about the brook trout. And we've seen at Spruce Pine Branch in 2017, Robinson River, also in 2017, our first steps towards restoring the fish passage and habitat by removing barriers that these culverts are and putting in bridges. And then recently, just last year, we completed Bolton Branch and Whiteoak Canyon, which I'll share with you in a minute. And to be continued, we're working with our partners at the Virginia Department of Transportation on 2 new public road projects. So here at Bolton Branch, this is near Huntley, Virginia, we restored about 800 feet of stream. And we did this through traditional stream restoration techniques of creating riffles and pools that the trout really love, but also establishing wetland and riparian areas to shade and cool the water and make great habitat. And we importantly removed that barrier. So here's the new open span bridge. These open span bridges are flood resilient as much as they're great for fish as well, and have great benefits now that we see increased storms and the times that we're having now with climate change. And so at Bolton Branch, these projects we've been monitoring through fish surveys, and we've seen a clear uptick in the fish populations, up to 38% over the last 3 years in the before and after surveys for this project. And this is more or less what it looks like in a graph. I'm going to try and point out a few key points about this kind of confusing graph. But we're looking at all of the sites on Bolton Branch. We're still at Bolton Branch. And so we're looking at before data. So that's at the bottom. You'll see 2017 sites. And then after data, so 2019 and 2020 are after dates. You're also looking at the stream from an upstream at the left hand of the x-axis to downstream at the the right side of the x-axis. What I really am excited to show you is that if you were to look at the upstream sites over time, you see a uptick in the fish populations. So that's great. Before and after, we're going up. And then also, as we go from upstream to downstream, we really see a boost in the downstream sites, especially at the later dates, like this 2020 2B site. Whereas in 2017 at this 2B site, there were no brook trout. And now we're tracking 11 brook trout in 2020 at this downstream site. So this is really great news for how we're making an impact on trout populations, and that we can really make a difference today by restoring these streams. It would be hard to miss this great example at Whiteoak Canyon also. And while this is in Madison County, I just have to share that this really has been a huge lift for the aquatic community, as much as the people that love to visit Whiteoak Canyon, especially this year, one of the park's most popular trailheads, and now you can access it through this people and fish friendly bridge. I mentioned we're partnering with VDOT on some exciting new pilot projects. This is important because about half of all the public, or about half of all of the stream crossings that PEC surveyed are public stream crossings owned by VDOT. And these can be real problem areas for fish passage, as you can see in these pictures. It's really hard for fish to go through culverts that are perched, like the one on the left, which is Bolton Branch, or just fundamentally filling up with gravel and really being a problem child for both VDOT and for everyone else that has to deal with these failing culverts. And PEC, we're looking at doing these replacements as they are priorities for replacement also with VDOT. So we're kind of looking at where were you going to do the work anyway and where could we help out. And so we fundraised grants to do replacements that are going to be fish friendly at these sites. And it's a win-win for VDOT because again, it increases the resiliency of these stream crossings for increased flooding scenarios that are projected for our area in the times that we're facing. So to be continued, these will be slated hopefully for construction in the next year, 2021. All right, so another exciting project and endeavor that PEC's Krebser Fund has sponsored, and I saw a few of the Park County's advisory board members on this webinar today. So I want to thank especially Torney Van Acker and Ruth Welch for their support for the parks restoration projects. PEC's Krebser Fund has worked to help fund a few of the new plantings that they've done, as this pollinator garden shows, but also putting in new trees that they've planted, over 150 new trees in the park, native trees through our Headwater Stream Initiative and other tree planting programs. And they're also improving trails and removing invasive species in the park. And I encourage anyone who's interested in learning about the park's goings on and the great environmental work they're doing to volunteer. They're always looking for outdoor help on many of these ongoing projects. And also PEC's Krebser Fund sponsored the development of a master plan for the park. While we saw so many on the ground great changes being done, we thought, why don't we help vision what the future of the park could be? And this master plan has sparked a lot of new ideas for how to make the park more beautiful and even more accessible. It's become a very popular place for especially the local community to access the outdoors in the last few months. And near the park is the Rush River. It's one of the great places you can go swimming in the summertime. And interestingly, we found out through the Friends of Rappahannock report card that maybe the water at the county park could be impaired by E. coli, which is a type of bacteria that can be found in water sources. So to dive a little deeper, PEC partnered with the Rappahannock County Park again, but also RapFlow and Friends of Rappahannock to do on-the-ground water quality testing. I want to do ground truth. Is the Rush River safe? And I'm excited to share with you some of the results of that citizen monitoring that we've done for the last 8 months. And the 3 sites you can see here, you can see the park in green, that's the most downstream. We also monitored at kind of a midpoint, Sunnyside Orchard Road, and then up at the top is Harris Hollow Road. And I want you to pay attention to the red site, Harris Hollow Road. Just kind of take a mental snapshot of where that is as we look at this results graph. So the red line is the Harris Hollow upper site on the Brush River. And you can see as you follow along, you get some big upticks, especially in the middle of the summer, probably related to some storm events, but also important to remember that a lot of E. coli is found from sediment that's in runoff. And what this data shows us is that while lower levels and safe levels, I'll point out, for swimming are maintained at the park and Sunnyside Orchard Road, the water quality data shows that there could be an issue at the upstream section of the Brush River. And so this data-driven kind of response to a public concern about the safety of our water has actually increased our ability to work with our local soil and water district to target where we can also work to improve water quality through best management practices. So I'm excited to throw up a few project totals. I wish I had a great picture here, so stay tuned. Next time I'll get a great picture of some cattle excluded from a stream. But we've done a fencing program with the help of the Krebser Fund. We invested about $50,000 towards matching costs for the ag BMPs, the ag best management practices that include cross fencing and livestock exclusion fencing. And we started that program with the Krebser Fund and the Culpeper Soil and Water District in 2018, and it's ongoing through 2021. And you can see that for the to date used $44,000 or so of the Krebser Fund's matching contributions. The Culpeper District has leveraged a total of over $525,000 in their project costs and done work on 20 plus properties and excluded over 15 miles of streams. So I really am excited that this project is going places, and we can't wait to continue down the road to see where this initiative goes in 2021. Also, working on the other side of the fence, we're planting trees. And Maggie brought up our Headwater Stream Initiative. Rappahannock County has done quite a lot of work with the Headwater Stream Initiative. And this is, again, a free technical service to landowners to plan and plant riparian areas with native trees and shrubs to improve water quality. Often it's paired with a cost share program like the Soil and Water District's agricultural programs for exclusion fencing. Or it could be done voluntarily by a landowner who just simply wants more trees along their creek. So in Rappahannock, we've been able to plant over 47 acres, 15,000+ trees, and lots of thousands of feet of stream with the help of many community volunteers. And I do want to mention that, I'll go back a slide. In these COVID times, we're looking at more creative solutions, and we're hoping to partner with the Appalachian Conservation Corps for bigger plantings, which is a program through AmeriCorps. All right. A couple more project updates. I'll be fast here, but we can't think about Rappahannock without thinking about the great open dark skies that we have too. And Rappahannock League for Environmental Protection has worked with the Krebser Fund to also run a cost share program to reduce the cost of lighting for those who voluntarily participate in swapping out their old lamps with the new dark sky friendly outdoor lighting. And this is both electricity efficient as well as environmentally a big bonus because it is great for wildlife and night sky viewing. And also a great project wrapped up in 2019, right before the school year started, is the Rappahannock Elementary School Courtyard. And this project was led by RapFlow. Rachel Bynum did an amazing job and worked within the county public schools and their Commit to Be Fit program to create an outdoor pavilion and a farm to market or farm to school garden here for the children to enjoy at the elementary school. I'm sure that this is especially a blessing during these days where everyone really enjoys being outside as much as possible. All right, so wrapping up here, things you can do to support Rappahannock conservation. If you or someone you know needs some fencing for exclusion, reach out to PEC at the Culpeper Soil and Water District. We can help you out for sure. If you want some trees, let us know. Our Headwater Stream Initiative is in full swing for fall 2020, but we'll take applications for the spring 2021 program. And then also RLEP is still doing their dark sky lighting program. So do reach out to them and please volunteer at our county park. They're doing lots of great work there. And finally, because I am who I am and I live on a farm, I've got to tell you, it's really important to eat local. And more on that later with our Food and Farms program with Matt. And that's it for right now.
Thanks, Claire. And, now we'll get Chris Hawk queued up, and there you go.
Hello, everyone. I am Chris Hawk. I am the land use field representative for Culpeper, Orange, and Madison counties. And at the end of this month, I will be transitioning my regional work to Albemarle and Orange counties. With that transition will come the hiring of a new land use field representative for the Piedmont Environmental Council. Adam Gillenwater is coming to us from the American Battlefield Trust, where he specialized on statewide policy as well as battlefield protection. So his knowledge of this area will be extremely important for his work as he transitions to Culpeper, Madison, and Greene County. So you will likely be hearing from Adam in the next few months as he starts to onboard and transition into his new role at PEC. So welcome aboard, Adam. Next, I'd like to just run through a couple of major ticket items in Culpeper as far as land use goes. So the first would be that Culpeper County was supposed to finalize its 2020 comprehensive plan update this year. However, due to the coronavirus and a few internal staffing transitions with the planning department, they have pushed their update for the comprehensive plan to 2021. As part of that comprehensive plan update, PEC will and has advocated for the update of historic areas of importance in the Culpeper County mapping exercises that they include in the comprehensive plan, as well as in a few areas throughout the comprehensive plan. I've circled this area in the bottom portion of the map to show that there are a ton of there's a ton of white space in this circle that lacks a lot of areas of historic importance that PEC hopes to include in the 2021 comprehensive plan. And this area is also important because it is being targeted for utility scale solar development. And that is one of the biggest ongoing challenges that Culpeper County faces. In PEC's terms, utility scale solar is the production of energy on a solar panel, typically more than 20 to 50 acres, going up to thousands of acres. And the solar is developed by an entity that creates the power to be sold to Dominion, and then Dominion sells the power to you. Currently in Culpeper, there are 3 utility scale solar projects that are worth noting and current as of today. The first is Maroon Solar, pictured here in the center. The second is Cricket Solar, pictured in the bottom in red. And the third is Greenwood Solar, pictured in the top right-hand corner. This map is extremely important because, one, it shows the proximity of these 3 large entities. They are all within 2 miles of one another, and they're also all located extremely close in proximity to not only wetlands, forested parcels, conservation easements, important historic resources, and water. They impact these resources, and I'd like to talk about that a bit more. So Greenwood Solar was originally approved by the Board of Supervisors in 2018. It had a two-year period in which it could work on its site plan and then begin construction, with the permit expiring in October of 2020. That permit expired this year. It was originally approved for 1,000 acres of solar panels that would produce 100 megawatts of power. Unfortunately, this project would impact about 620 acres of forested land, 88 acres of prime agricultural soils, and then over 1,400 acres of farmland of statewide importance. Now, PEC is an advocate for renewable energy because of its beneficial impacts on our society and the world, and helps reduce carbon emissions and can inhibit greenhouse gas emissions related to the climate change. However, we have a hard time supporting utility scale solar projects that impact a lot of our natural and cultural resources that cannot be properly mitigated for. So technically, the Greenwood solar application and special use permit expired on October 2nd, but with the passing of Senate Bill 5106 and the special session during the General Assembly this year, Senate Bill 5106 will extend the deadline for Greenwood solar, as well as other land use applications throughout the state of Virginia, for 2 years. So if Governor Northam signs this bill, it will effectively extend the Greenwood solar application until October 2nd, 2022. That being said, PEC earlier this week submitted a letter to Governor Northam requesting that he update Senate Bill 5106 to only allow for residential extensions for special use permits. This would not allow for Greenwood solar and other similar commercial and industrial applications to have an additional 2 years before their deadlines. Moving on to Maroon Solar. Maroon Solar was submitted by a company earlier this summer, and it is pictured here in the center of the map in Maroon. It is an approximately 1,700 acre facility that will produce 149 megawatts of power. We anticipate a public meeting to enter Culpeper County's Planning Commission early on in November, but are unsure if that will be a work session or a public hearing at this point. We hope it to be a work session, so there are ample opportunities for the public to weigh in. And last but not least, Cricket Solar was submitted by a California developer in 2018 for a 1,500 acre, 80 megawatt power producing solar facility. It was actually withdrawn by the applicant in 2019 due to a lot of public input and unanswered questions. However, the applicant has recently placed a few advertisements in the Culpeper Star Exponent and other newspapers in the area, asking landowners to reach out to them with potential land acquisition potentials for a new project. So we anticipate a new version of Cricket Solar to be released in the next year or so. So how can we stop utility scale solar from approaching Culpeper County, especially targeting these really high importance areas with historic and natural resources? Well, currently the county has a policy document for utility scale solar, but it does not have a codified ordinance that really gives the county, legislative teeth on helping prevent applications of such large size. The policy document really is looking for applications to be for projects of 200 acres or less, and the current applications that are in the county are 1,000 acres or more. So we believe a codified ordinance could really help on this front. And then, secondly, conservation can really help with the placement of utility scale solar. And as Maggie mentioned before, we're working on thousands of acres of conservation in Culpeper County. And down here in the southern portion of the map, you can see, in this area, Maggie had alluded to a few projects she's working on. So we hope to continue our conservation efforts to help protect natural resources that help sequester carbon naturally. And lastly, I would like to just give you all an update on the Rapidan River Clarks Mountain Rural Historic District. This is a 40,000 acre historic district that encompasses land in Culpeper, Orange, and Madison counties. It was originally created in 2015 by PEC, our donors, and a few other fellow organizations, hoping to work on the preservation of historic and natural resources in this area. A majority of the resources in the historic district are 19th century resources, and they focus heavily on agricultural resources, as well as the identification of many African-American resources. So we hope to finalize the preliminary information form, or we finalized the preliminary information form for this in 2017, so it is currently eligible for the National Register. And we plan on having 2 public meetings for the historic district by the end of 2021, so that we can formally finalize the historic district. The historic district does not infringe any property rights. However, it does help protect eminent domain with utilities such as Dominion attempting to install transmission lines through people's property. It adds an additional review of governmental requirements during permitting processes. So to wrap all of that up, a few important dates to remember for Culpeper land use. Adam Gillenwater, our new field representative for land use, starts on October 30th. The Culpeper Comprehensive Plan will be revised and updated in 2021. And the 3 utility scale solar developments have a few upcoming dates, the most important which being a likely November 11th public meeting for Maroon Solar. So thank you very much for listening, and now for a bit more from Claire on land use updates in Rappahannock.
Thanks, Chris. We'll get Claire queued up here again for a few slides. And just a reminder to submit any questions you have to the chat box.
All right, we are almost there. Thanks again, everyone, being patient. Okay. Oh no.
And Claire, if it's easier, since you only have a few slides, if it's easier for me just to share my screen and have you click
Yeah,
through.
I apologize. I was
No, it's okay.
there, and then is it okay now?
Oh, we still
Oh,
see your notes. Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's flipping it. I'm sorry.
There you go. You just have to click through your slides and
Right. Okay. Marco, you're welcome to try. I'm sorry. I'm kind of lost at this point.
No, it's okay. I'll just share my screen and you can just tell me when you're set to click through to your next slides.
Okay, thanks. Okay,
You stop sharing, Claire.
I'm working on it, yes. Okay. All right, so I'm back, and I just wanted to give you a couple quick updates about what's going on with land use in Rappahannock. So everyone's been talking about our comprehensive plan update, and the comprehensive plan, hasn't been updated since 2004, so it's a big deal, this 2020 update. And it's also taken a while to roll out, but here we are, and hopefully we're on the right path. Although PEC does have some top concerns with the current draft, and I'll point those out in just a few slides here. But I did also want to note that this new draft does have much improved natural resource and cultural resource section. And while it brings up the term affordable housing in a sentence or two, it really doesn't offer much light on how that could be a plan or bigger initiative through Rappahannock County. But really what I want to focus on are the village areas and the draft concept maps that the Planning Commission has laid out. Recently, there's been a couple Board of Supervisors meetings where they've addressed the public's concerns with especially the Sperryville maps, which next slide. And what I want to point out here is these maps do show existing zoning, which is fine. And you can see the overlay in this box down in the bottom right corner. But what it doesn't address is where some of that zoning is potentially stale zoning, or might be potential for a conservation easement. And what we're not able to really focus on is sort of the direction of what these maps could mean. The language that is in the narrative form of the comp plan is pretty sparse on how planning and zoning around could be in and around these mapped areas for village areas. So a bit of gray area, and I think the public comment that's come out of the meetings recently is good, and PEC is paying attention to this. So next. And then interesting, as we drill down on the village area maps, I thought to myself, well, there's some stuff missing here, which is all of the many villages that are historic and scenic values for our county. And these aren't mentioned even in the historic section. So I think it would be great, and PEC has recommended to the Planning Commission for an addendum to be added that gives further historic narrative of these many, many villages. And I've just put a few up here and some photos. These are areas that have been identified as potential historic districts, or even in some cases named as historic districts and historic places with the Virginia historic, or the National Registry of Historic Places, and Virginia DHR. All right, next slide. And then recently, really exciting, is the digitization of the historic property records that make up the Shenandoah National Park. So perhaps if you've been in the Rappahannock Circuit Court, you've seen on the right here this massive 6-foot map that was a scanned version and blown up of all of the private tracks that were then made into the park. And Christy Kendall, PEC's Historic Preservation Corner, led this effort to include the counties that make up the park today and go back and find these physical records. And we've worked in the Rappahannock Circuit Court office with Margaret Ralph. So thank you very much to our Circuit Court for their help here. And now they're all scanned, and you can view these archives with James Madison University's online webpage. You can see the link down here. So again, a great effort to, I think, enhance our knowledge of our history here, and honor and recognize the many families who really built a legacy with the land that was made into the park. And that's all I have, Marco. Thank you for helping me.
No problem. And we can turn over for our last presenter, a quick presentation by Matt Coyle. While you're getting that queued up, Matt, I'll just say that right now in our region, the digitization project just includes Rappahannock County, but the goal is, now that we have this done, to expand that digitization to the counties that are in PEC's region that border Shenandoah National Park. So we'll make sure to put the link in there, and I believe you'll be seeing something in the local papers about this pretty soon. I know we've sent a press release out, so it's a really cool project. But I will turn it over to you, Matt.
Thank you, Marco. Hi, everyone. I'm Matt Coyle. I'm the local food systems coordinator for PEC. I joined Piedmont Environmental Council in March of this year, and look forward to sharing all the local food work we've been doing since then. Very excited to be here with you all today, and thank you for joining. As many of you know, PEC has been the leader in Buy Fresh, Buy Local in Virginia since 2006. And we continue to help market our local farms in this way. We're switching to every other year print guide. So the next print guide will be sent out in 2021, and it will cover through 2022. We hope to be sending that out next spring. But in the meantime, we've created a new website and launched a new website, buylocalpiedmont.org. And one of the cool features of this website is that folks can go online and they can search our interactive map to find local food nearest you. You can put in your zip code, select a radius, select farms or farmers markets or specific type of farms, and it'll show up on this map. And then you can actually click a farm that you're interested in, and they have a profile. So if you're a farmer, you can also sign up through buylocalpiedmont.org and create a profile. You have your contact information and an about us, link your social networks, And you can also, there's a new feature that allows you to sell your products directly on this website in partnership with Market Maker. So it's really exciting. It's probably the easiest way to find local food. And we've launched that in the last couple weeks. So please check it out. Buy Fresh, Buy Local is more of our long-term initiative to help our local farms. But in the short term, our farmers, our dairy farmers, have been hit the hardest because of the pandemic, closing schools, which amounts to about 30 to 40% of their sales usually. So we've stepped in. Also, our food banks fresh milk is the #1 requested item at our food banks, and it's the least donated. So PEC has stepped in to hopefully help short-term bridge this gap. And we're supporting local dairy farms throughout the 9-county region and working with our local food pantries. Ruth Welch, it's been a pleasure working with you on this project in Rappahannock, in Culpeper, and throughout the region. And you can see here on this map, we're working with over 17 local dairies who are members of the Maryland and Virginia Milk Producers Cooperative, buying that milk and donating it to the food pantries, as you can see on the map, throughout the region. We started this in May, and in the roughly 22 weeks since we've launched our milk initiative, we've provided weekly deliveries of fresh milk to over 20,000 families in need across PEC's 9-county region. We've donated a total of 20,000 plus gallons of fresh milk at about 1,500 plus gallons per week. We've been able to raise and spend over $80,000 to make this happen. And we've supported 17 local dairy farms in the 9-county region who are members of the Maryland and Virginia Milk Producers Cooperative. We're serving 20 plus food banks and food pantries in the region currently. I won't read you all of them, but they are in every county in PEC's 9-county region. And we're working with the Culpeper Food Closet, Rappahannock Food Pantry. We've expanded this a little bit into beef, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. We hope to continue the milk initiative through the end of the year. Last week, Governor Northam announced his Virginia roadmap to end hunger, and this includes working with the Dairy Alliance and the food banks in the state to provide fresh milk to our food pantries and food banks. So we're looking forward to that, hopefully taking place sometime early next year, and we hope to continue these milk deliveries until then. We've also purchased and supported local beef farmers. We've purchased about 1,500 plus pounds of locally raised grass-fed beef and donated to the Culpeper Food Closet, Fauquier Community Food Bank, and Madison Emergency Services Agency. We hope to keep expanding this program to help our farmers, but also help those who need it the most right now at our food banks. Our beef initiative isn't as big as our milk initiative is, and that's primarily because of the processing restrictions or limitations that our farmers have in the region. The pandemic has exposed vulnerabilities in our national food supply chain, and it's definitely had an effect on local processors who are just increasingly over demanded right now, basically, and it up to a year out is how long some of our animal farmers are waiting for a processing slot. So we're working with the American Farmland Trust and other organizations to see if we can bring a centrally located processing facility to help ease that demand, or at least help enhance some of the existing processing facilities. Culpeper is also finally for the first time elected to include in their capital improvements plan funding for a purchase of development rights to help accelerate the farmland protection in the county. So we're really excited about that. And I think that's it. With that, I'll turn it back over to you, Marco.